Hi, this is Genevieve Douglas with Bloomberg Law, and I'm here at the Littler Executive Employer Conference. With me today is shareholder for Littler. This is Yvette Gatling. Hi.
Hi, Genevieve. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good. So Yvette, we're here to discuss unconscious bias in the workplace, and certainly bias in the workplace is making news, whether it be on airlines or in neighborhood restaurants. But the way that unconscious bias manifests itself in the workplace is a little bit less overt. It might happen in ways that people don't anticipate. What does it look like, and how are we seeing this all play out?
You know, unconscious bias can manifest itself in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, it can manifest itself in recruiting avenues. For instance, when people say that they want to recruit someone and they will ask their workforce, which may not be diverse, although they may want a diverse workforce. So people tend to spend most of their time with people who look like them.
Right.
I mean, there's been a study that says that most white Americans, 90% of their friends are like them, or even African Americans, more than 80% of their friends are like them. Mm-hmm. So if you ask them for referrals, they would tend to rely on their friends and people who look like them.
Right.
So you may not get the diverse pool that you're looking for when you ask for those referrals. So that's how it can manifest itself in recruiting. It can also manifest itself if you're talking about giving out work assignments. I mean, people
Right.
tend to spend time with people as well that look like them or that they feel comfortable with.
Right.
So for instance, if people are going to play golf with people or having lunches with people, that may be how they pass out work assignments.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way that unconscious bias can manifest itself. And you know, there was a study that was done in law firms specifically where there was a memo that was given to law firm partners.
Oh, okay.
And in this memo, when they first gave it to the partners, they didn't tell them who had written it. When they told them it was written by a white associate, they didn't find errors. When they told them it was written by a black associate, they found a number of errors, and errors that weren't even there.
Oh, dear.
So what happens is people will find or use the stereotypes that they think that are there. And so that's how that unconscious bias will manifest itself in the workplace.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's it's tough to address for employers because by its nature it's an unconscious bias. And so what does intervention look like for your HR department and for your managers and supervisors?
Well, it's similar to what we've done when we've addressed it for Title VII.
Okay.
And one of the things that you have to do is certainly training people on unconscious bias and what it looks like. Once people recognize it, then you can certainly try to address it. One of the things I like to say is, first of all, your brain is lazy. So when you make these decisions, you don't want to, just, rely on what you would normally do.
Okay.
And so once you recognize that unconscious bias may creep into some of the decisions that you make, you have to think, well, what's another way to do this? So when we're recruiting, thinking of other sources that we can use, other recruiters that we can use. When we're passing out assignments, you may want to have a more formal way of doing that. When you're thinking about, for instance, making decisions about whether or not someone wants to, let's say, take leave or paternity leave, you can't assume that a man may not want to take that because he is a man.
Right.
So those are things that you may want to think about, or this assignment, you may not want to assume, of course, that a woman doesn't want to necessarily take an assignment because she has young children, or that a man may want to take this assignment because he has a wife at home. He may also want to spend time with his children. So this is how unconscious bias can creep into people's decisions.
Yeah.
People are automatically thinking these things because of stereotypes that they have in their mind about certain people.
Yeah, and I imagine there are other mechanisms that HR and employers can do to kind of circumvent the ability for that bias to kind of creep into those decisions. Maybe a different system for handing out projects, for instance. Are there other kinds of ways that employers are tackling this?
Sure, there are. I mean, you can have more formal ways of handing out projects as opposed to it being informal. You could have more of a lottery system of handing out projects for people, and having a monitoring system for handing out projects. And there's certainly a number of ways that we work with employers to do that. And we talked about the recruiting ways to do that. But a number of times too, I mean, you can't just necessarily always go to the people that you've always worked with. Always thinking of new ways to work with different people outside of your comfort zone.
Right, and kind of culturally as a workplace, change some of those old habits.
Absolutely, and once you recognize these things, I think finding new ways to, change the culture in your workplace, and it happens from the top down. Once you recognize that there's unconscious bias, then you tend to do things about that.
Yeah, well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights, and I just really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.